My name is John, and in November of 2024, my wife and I paid off our low interest mortgage. Man, it feels good. If you were to look online right now, asking the question, should you pay off your mortgage? You'll get one of two schools of thought. On the one hand, there are the Dave Ramseys of the world. If you're not familiar, Dave Ramsey is someone who despises all debt and wants you to be out of it as quickly as possible. So he's a large proponent of paying off your mortgage as quickly as humanly possible, assuming that you are not going into debt to do so and you are not violating one of his other financial rules, like taking away from an emergency fund. On the other hand, you have your YouTube finance bros, some of your typical financial advice that looks at the cost of your mortgage and runs the typical equation. For a lot of people, whether or not you keep your mortgage is a matter of math. You look at the interest rate and you compare that against what you might typically make in the market. For the S&P, it's probably pretty safe to assume somewhere around 6 or 7%. The argument is this: if your mortgage is costing you 3 or 4% a year, and in the market you can make 6 or 7% a year, why not make more, even if the mortgage is costing you? This is a pretty sound mathematical argument, but it's one that I have a few problems with. One, it assumes that you're always going to have extra money to make over the cost of your mortgage. And as many people who have been foreclosed on or lost their jobs can tell you, that's not always the case. The thing missing from this kind of equation is risk. Our lives are not simple linear equations. Some of our best plans fall apart right in front of our eyes when something goes wrong. You can't always assume that you're going to have money above your mortgage payments to be able to invest every single year, year after year. This is why some people opt to use the money that they have that's extra now to get rid of their mortgage early. So in the event that they run into hardships, the mortgage will not be something they have to worry about in the future. The other really large problem with the way this argument is usually used is it assumes something of you. A lot of people today, when thinking about their mortgage, are thinking about how much money they can end up with over the 20 or 30 year period. The assumption is that your goal is to be the richest person you can possibly be. And for a lot of people, that is the goal. However, that's not where everyone wants to be. For me and my wife personally, there was a time where that was the goal, probably in our 20s. Make as much money as possible, have the numbers as high as they possibly can be, because in our minds at that time, that's what freedom really looked like, having a really large number in your account. Today in my 30s though, what freedom looks like has changed drastically. I have a wife and a child. And today, freedom really means stability. It means peace of mind. It means looking at my accounts and knowing that if something were to go wrong tomorrow, this house is not something that's going to be taken from us. Now, you might think that's a very short-sighted way of looking at things. Well, maybe. What I've learned about personal finance is if it's not a plan you can stick to, it's really not a plan for you. And for me, I realized that simply investing my money above my mortgage put me in a position where I always was trying to service loans while doing other things. There's a very powerful thing that happens when you narrow your focus. For us, putting all of our money into paying off our mortgage made us super intense about getting rid of it, because that's where all of our extra money was going. And that shortened our time frame drastically. We looked for all the extra money we could find because we wanted to be done with this part of our lives. And it was the only thing we were focused on for this period in our financial journeys. Now, before you go run off and get excited about paying off your mortgage, let me give you some arguments for the other side. It is true that you will end up making less money, all things equal, if you decide to pay off your mortgage early, as opposed to keeping it and investing the additional money. You'd have to be investing the difference in the money that you have over and above your mortgage the entire time, but math is math. The other thing to note here is that I personally would not have paid my mortgage off if I hadn't already have established a very significant retirement fund. That was something that was extremely important to us. Time is not something that you can get back, and retirement is very, very time dependent. So we started our retirement funds when we were in our 20s, And by the time we were ready to pay off our mortgage, we had already built up assets there that we were comfortable with so that we could stop focusing on that for a little while to get our mortgage paid off the rest of the way. If you're someone who hasn't started to think about retirement yet and you're considering paying off your mortgage, make sure that you think about what's the most important to you. In a way, paying off your mortgage can be a preparation for retirement, but I wouldn't make a paid off house my sole investment plan for my retirement. You can't pay for food with a paid off house. All I can say is that if it's something that is interesting to you, something that you want to consider, take the time to listen and talk to people who have paid off their mortgage and ask them what they think and if they regret it. For me personally, it's only been a little bit over a month, and I can say that it has brought a sense of peace to our house, especially for my wife. There is a calm that comes over your household when you know that the place that you live, the place that you lay your head down at night, the place that your family spends the majority of their time is yours. You don't have to worry about missing a mortgage payment. It's yours. That calm is more than worth the money that I'm giving up in retirement. And I know for some people, you can't even fathom the idea that you would give up money in that spread between what your mortgage costs you and what you can make in the market. All that I can say to you is do what feels good to you. Your plan is yours. There's nothing I'm going to be able to say to convince you otherwise. What I can say is that I am someone who is very heavily focused on the numbers, but sometimes the math doesn't account for everything. Your peace of mind and your ability to follow your plan has a lot to do with your behavior as well, and your emotions play a very large role in that. Consider all of these things, and remember, ask yourself what your ultimate goal is. Is it being the richest person that you possibly can be? Is it stability for your family? Is it the ability to just have some extra spending money? All of these things are valid goals. Don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. Well, thanks for listening to my story. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.